Greetings, friends and followers, and welcome. This is Nurses Talking. I am Del Barzi. And as always, if you like what you see and hear, give us a like, subscribe, leave us a comment. We'd love to know what you think. So today, my guest is Dr. Latora Grant Scott. And Dr. Latora is the owner of Eclipse Health Consultants, LLC, and its affiliate, the Nurse Doc is Zen, merging the art and science of nursing and yoga for holistic lifestyle coaching. She's passionate about empowering others to reach their optimal level of physical health and emotional well-being. With 28 years of clinical experience, Dr. Latora received her PhD in public health in 2012 and her BSN in 1994. She is a certified heart failure nurse with additional certificates in RN, palliative care nursing, and online health coaching. Additionally, Dr. Latora is a 200-hour registered psychotherapeutic yoga clinician. As a holistic wellness practitioner, Dr. Latora offers clients virtual and in-person holistic health session options. Consultation services include wellness meditations, therapeutic journaling, private and group adaptive therapeutic yoga sessions. She's an experienced nurse speaker and health content writer, having worked as a contract speaker for Acilion and Gilead Pharmaceuticals as a PAH content expert. Dr. Latora proudly serves as an executive contributor, writing content for the history-making publication, Color of Wellness magazine. Color of Wellness magazine was envisioned in 2020 and first published in 2021. Content is created by Black nurses to help bridge the health literacy gap within communities of color. Thank you so much, Dr. Latora, for agreeing to spend some time with me today.
Thank you so much.
First things first, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you so much. Okay, so my first question always, my big curiosity about this is always, why are people nurses? So why are you a nurse?
Why am I?
Yeah,
That's a
what brought
great
you to
question.
nursing?
So I was the little girl that was always finding wounded animals and hurt little kids and bandaging up everybody. And that was me as a little girl. But I did not think that I was going to be a nurse until I had a friend. We were in high school. I had a friend, and well, I didn't attend the party. They attended a party, and we still to this day don't really know exactly what happened. We believe that someone put something in her drink. And so she ended up with a toxic, what they call a toxic brain injury. So she had this brain injury, and she ended up in a state of where, because we were juniors in high school, like sophomore, juniors in high school, she reverted back to like a infant state, like could not talk, walk, any of that from this brain injury. And so at the time, we were all in Louisiana, and we were living in like the big city of Louisiana, if you want to call it a city, where and they were living in another part. And so the hospital, the specialty hospital that she needed to go to, was in the part where I was living and not where her mother was. And so she was at this hospital. And so my mom would take me by there to visit her every day. And the nurses would let me help them take care of her because I was her age. And so they were like wanting her to interact. And so I would go visit her because her mom could come up on the weekends, but she couldn't come during the week. So I would go visit her during the week and help, and the nurses will let me take care of her. And so I just kind of fell in love with it. And then I was like, this is kind of cool, taking care of her. And they were like, you're not squeamish at all. Cause again, I was the little girl that was bandaging up everybody. So it didn't bother me. And I walked in one day, and she turned and looked at me, and she said, hey, Latora. She said my name. And she just started talking, and the nurses was like, we've been waiting for you all day. She's been asking for you. And so I was hooked. That was me. I was like, this is what I want to do. This is what I want.
Wow. I got all sorts of goosebumps on that Hey Latora thing.
Oh my God. I was just bawling, and they were like, yeah, well, she's been saying your name all day. So yeah, I was hooked. that was it for me.
Oh, and you never looked back, eh?
That is my why. Every time it gets rough or whatever, I always go back to that story. That is definitely my why for being a nurse, for sure.
That's really awesome. So, what areas have you worked in? Because I see you've done a lot. What areas have you worked
I've done quite a bit. I worked as a heart and lung transplant coordinator. I worked in kidney dialysis where they were doing it on the floor. So that's when I worked on the floor. My first starting out was on a renal floor,
in?
where
Okay.
we did peritoneal dialysis on the floor, where we took care of patients that were coming in to get like their access put in. But most of my career has been in cardiovascular nursing and advanced heart and lung
Mm-hmm.
disease. And so I worked as a heart and lung transplant coordinator for a while, and then I went over to the chronic management side in failure, pulmonary hypertension, interstitial lung disease, and adult CF. And so I actually helped the facility I was working at in Dallas. I helped them get their pulmonary hypertension program up and running. And so that's kind
All
of
of
my
it
background.
exciting stuff. And the adrenaline pumping stuff.
Yeah. Not quite the ER. I don't think I have the temperament for that. Not quite the ER or the med flight, but yeah, pretty exciting.
Not quite, but yeah, heart lung transplant unit, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Pretty
actually being the
exciting.
coordinator to call the patient when you get an organ for them, that's pretty exciting to
Oh,
have them
wow. Yeah.
coordinating the whole transplant process. It's nerve wracking, but it's exciting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. So, wow, this question from you. What would you say then is your greatest achievement as a nurse so far?
My greatest achievement as a nurse so far, I can definitely say in 2015, I
Uh,
was nominated and inducted into what they call it Great 100. So the DFW,
yeah,
Dallas Fort Worth area, has the Great 100 nurses. And
yeah,
so I was nominated and inducted into the Great 100. And I feel it's like one of my greatest career achievements because number one, you are nominated by your peers. And
yes,
so for your fellow nurses to feel like you are warranted that honor, and it's an honor. They feel like you're a role model, you are a person that works with compassion, and you are showing leadership in the nursing field. And so being nominated and then inducted, that's definitely, I feel, is my greatest achievement.
that's a huge thing because very often when you speak to nurses and stuff, you hear a lot about the bullying and stuff like that.
Yeah,
And I don't think we hear enough about how much we support each other. So for me, that is that is really awesome. But
absolutely.
having said that, though, are there any aspects of nursing stuff that you would like to see change?
I'm glad you mentioned like the bullying. I was thinking about that question,
Mhm.
and I know when I first started, when I entered nursing in 1994, it was just known. The thing was, okay, nurses eat their young. And I used to hate hearing that. And it was like that was the accepted thing, like that's
Yeah.
normal. That's what you're supposed to do. Nurses eat their young. And I was
Hmm.
like, why would you do that? And
Hmm.
so I've always tried to be the mentor that I wanted to have.
Yeah.
And because that did not work for me, I was like, the trial by fire does not work for me. I need you to show me what I need to
Yeah.
do. I
Hmm.
don't need you to micromanage me. I don't need you to, handhold me, but I need you to at least show me with some compassion what to do and not expect me. Like, to me, you're dealing with patients' lives. So this is when I work clinically on the floor. We're dealing with patients' lives. Don't throw me in anywhere and expect
Yeah.
me to know how to do something. We're dealing with people's lives.
Yeah.
And so that's the one thing that I if I never heard that statement again, I would
Yes.
be thrilled. I would
Yes.
be thrilled.
I know because you know what it seems that we've just accepted it as something, of course,
It's just
and it
how
shouldn't
it is.
it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be at
No,
all. It shouldn't be
no.
at all. As you say, we're dealing with people's lives. It
Yeah,
shouldn't be. And so you're an entrepreneur.
I am.
Did you always have this entrepreneurial spirit?
I don't think that I did. No. Um, I guess watching my grandmother, thinking back, kind of watching my grandmother and how she was and just the different things. I never thought of it as being an entrepreneur. It was just, you have these side hustles, right? You make life work. It's not necessarily being an entrepreneur. So I guess I've had it, but I never thought of it that way. I tell people my business kind of evolved organically from me on my own personal journey. And so me doing my own personal healing and wellness journey and posting it for accountability for me, posting it so so that I could watch my progress, and then people responding to it and saying, or if and then I would get, if I hadn't posted in a while, and this is just on Facebook because I don't really know how to do, so I don't know all the algorithm. I'm just posting because it's me, right? And I would get these messages like, what happened to you? It's Monday, because I always, like, you never skip a Monday because that's how you start your week. What happened to you? It's Monday. You didn't post anything. I'm like, well, I worked out. I just didn't show y'all. Well, no, we want to see it. Oh, okay. So to me, it was that mindset of just like in nursing, if you didn't document it, you didn't do it.
It didn't, yeah.
And so it's that nursing mindset. If it's not documented, it's not done. And so and so now I documented. I was my mom and my friends will laugh at me. I'm like searching for my Fitbit. I gotta have it on all the time. And they're like, why do you need it? I was like, who's gonna do all this walking for nothing? It has to count. You gotta count. So
Yeah, it gotta come.
so my business kind of emerged from that, from me posting, and then people saying, well, can you show me how to, or will you show me how? And I'm like, yeah. And then having great girlfriends and cousins saying, look, you've been doing this for how many years for free? You need to try to monetize this. Okay, you have a specialty in a town that makes no sense that you're doing this. And so that's kind of how my business kind of evolved on its own.
That is awesome. And you say that you're trying to merge the art and the science of nursing and yoga and all of that. So what is your big vision?
My big vision is normalizing self-care as an activity of daily living. That is my mission and goal. I think that, and not just for nurses, I think women, men do it, but women especially women of color, we
Yeah.
take care of everybody. We have like birthed the world and, nurtured the world, but
Yeah.
then we won't
Yeah.
stop and take care of ourselves.
Mhm.
And, it's like go, 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 or I don't have time. I remember having a client, and one of the things that I wanted to work on with her, and usually a lot of my clients are either nurses or in the medical field because that's, where I
Yeah.
am.
Mhm.
And she was like, I don't have, I was like, sit down and we're going to go through this breathing because we need to, down regulate you before we get into what we need to get into.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
she was like, I don't have time to breathe. I said, do you hear what you just said?
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't have time to breathe, then you don't have time to live, sister. What is going on? So yeah, I think that's my biggest mission and goal, is to normalize self-care as an activity of daily living. It's not a special occasion. You
Right.
know,
Right.
self-care should not be regulated to once a year when you go on vacation. What is that? You should
Yeah.
do something for yourself every single day. And
Yeah.
so that's my
Yeah.
mission.
Yeah. Awesome. Because I was going to ask you what self-care means to you, but here you go. I got it. A lot of us, as you mentioned, when that resonated with me when you mentioned, she said she doesn't have time to breathe,
Yeah.
because not many of us actually verbalize that, but we
Yeah.
act that way, like we don't have time to breathe,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
So
We do.
that
And when we are breathing, we aren't breathing correctly. A lot of times, I tell people that all the time. We're not breathing correctly,
I know.
especially women, because we're holding our stomach in because aesthetics, or you got something on or whatever. It's like, let that belly loose so it breathe like a baby, and then suck it back in. Get a full breath.
I know we do the shallow thing. Yes,
Oh
I know.
yeah, shallow
Yeah.
breathing. Which is why we're so, in that fight and flight mode all the time. You got to
Mhm,
down regulate yourself.
mhm, 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 mhm. So, what advice then would you give? Before I go to advice, you have this thing going on in Costa Rica soon.
I do. I
Talk to
do.
me.
I do. I have the wonderful opportunity to partner with, so I'm around nurses most of the time, but I had the wonderful opportunity to make the acquaintance of a lady. She is I work in the biopharmaceutical industry for my 9 to 5 job. And she did that as well, but she transitioned out and she is the travel queen. She travels for a living and it is the most amazing thing. She has these two beautiful little girls and her husband, and they basically world school the kids. So they travel around and it's these luxury, lavish type of things. So it's not like, okay, we taking no, it's these beautiful
Mhm.
trips.
Mhm.
And so I had the opportunity to partner with her, and we are doing a wellness retreat in Costa Rica, November the 1st through the 5th, and it's called Lavish Your Wellness.
Mhm.
And the retreat, we're talking about self-care as a business strategy, getting people to understand that you are your brand.
Yeah.
Even if you don't have a business, you are your
Mhm.
brand. I tell my son that
Yeah.
all the time. How you present yourself to the world, you
Mhm.
are your brand. And so if you're exhausted and disheveled and unfocused, who wants to
Yeah.
partner up with that? You know?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So that's one of the things we're going to focus on this retreat. The property is beautiful. We have our own little island, and it's just 10 people in this huge mansion, and we got a private chef, and um, we're gonna have masseuse services, but also learning how to translate that into practical day-to-day activities. So
Yeah.
it's going to be big and luxurious there, but we're also going to learn practical ways of how you can carry that on once you leave from day to day.
That's awesome. That's really awesome because as you say, as you said, self-care is a day-to-day activity, but then sometimes you've got to go big with this.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You gotta go
So
big.
I
You
know.
gotta go big every now and then. Of course.
Yeah.
Of
So
course. Gotta
I
go big.
love that. I love that. So what advice would you give then to someone who wants to be a nurse? Because you have gone through so many different areas of this and seen it from so many sides. What advice would you give to someone who wants to be a nurse?
I would say grace and compassion. Grace for yourself and compassion for the people you're caring for.
Okay.
Always.
Okay.
Always give yourself grace. We're human.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you need to know your clinical skills. You need to be clinically skilled. You need to study. You need to, you need to know,
Yeah.
you need to know how to calculate that drug. Okay, you need to, that's information that you need to know. But you also need to give yourself some grace and be humble enough to say I don't know.
Yeah.
And that's why the nurses eat your young thing bothers me. Say you don't know and ask for help,
That's for
but
help.
then
Yeah.
also have compassion for people. And I tell people all the time, it when I was working, especially when I worked on the floor, this may not be the sickest patient you've seen today, but I can guarantee you it's probably the sickest they've ever been. And if it's someone's mother, it's the sickest their mother has ever been. So have compassion for people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's something I really tell people, and something I try to remember is that very often you're meeting someone on the worst day of their life. And if this were your worst day, how would you be? How would
Yes.
you be?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So in all of these things that you do, transferring from or incorporating bedside nursing and ICU stuff and entrepreneurship and all of this, what are some of the challenges you've encountered?
So I never worked ICU. I worked like really critical floors that should have
Right.
been ICU, but
Mhm.
not
Yeah.
ICU. And then I worked transplant. And then I transitioned from clinical practice into the biopharmaceutical industry about 6 years ago, almost 7 years ago. And so that was a huge transition for me. Um, because I left patient care. That was the first time in all of the 20 something years that I had been a nurse that I had not had direct patient care.
Hmm.
And so I look at it as I'm having an impact on more patients, because what I do now is it's like almost like a trainer, but I
Okay.
go out and I work with physicians and nurses on products to help their patients. So all of the patients that they see, I impact them, but I don't have the direct patient care. But I do still miss it. But the transitioning from actual direct patient care into a clinical research education type role was that was hard for me.
Yeah.
And in my first biofarm job, I actually was able to implement something that they had never done in the history of the company, where, because we're kind of, when you work in biofarm as a medical science liaison, so that's what my official title is, there's a firewall where you don't connect with patients. And so I was able to implement a protocol to where we could actually talk with patients at conferences if they wanted scientific information, just because I was jonesing to talk to people. But we won an award for that. We won a innovation award for me implementing that program. So it was pretty awesome. So
that's the exact word I was going to use. I was about to say, but that's the thing about being a nurse. You are innovative, and you tend to almost see around corners and see things that other people seemingly don't see. So yeah. Awesome. Great for you. So I heard you say a word, but I'm going to ask you anyway, because maybe that's not your word. I am collecting these words about what nurses think about, not what nurses think about nurses, but what nurses think that the essential quality of a nurse is. So if you had to describe the most essential quality of a nurse in just one word, what would that word be?
Compassion.
Compassion. Okay, you said it a couple of times. Yeah. All right, we do need to be compassionate. And very often when we talk about compassion, people don't seem to get that we can be compassionate and not be and not take on the whole thing. Yeah. But if people say compassion, for me, I try to say, well, yeah, you have to be compassionate. There's no two ways about it, but you can't absorb it.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that is difficult, especially if you're an empathic person.
Yes.
And so it's like you can't own that. Yeah. You can't own it because, number one, you're going to have too many of these situations in a day. Yeah. When I worked transplant was some of the most exciting and wonderful times for the person getting the transplant. But on the opposite end of that, a family lost a loved one for them to be able to get that transplant. Yes. And so you got to deal with that duality. And a lot of times I would be the one having to go and talk to the family and tell them, we're getting ready to prep your family. Thank you for, and let them know all the people that they were going to say, but then going to the family who was receiving, and it's the most jubilant time of their life. Yeah. And so you got to be able to go between those two parallels, between those two worlds, and not take all that stuff home, because then when I get home, my son don't really care about all of that. He want his back scratched and his food. That he's grown now, but at the time he was like, scratch my back, and when it's dinner, that's what he wants.
Yeah, but sometimes that's a really hard lesson to learn.
It is very hard. It is very hard, and it's for your own sanity too, because you have your own life and you have your own things, and so if you're carrying everybody else's stuff, you don't have room for your own. You gotta let some of that go. You gotta let it go. Yeah.
You gotta. Otherwise, you're gonna just lose yourself. You're gonna look in the mirror and don't know who this is you're looking at.
Exactly. And that's where the self-care comes in. It's like I said, especially nurses. It's like you have to take. It was always, that was a big joke too. Nurses don't go to the bathroom, with nurses' bladder, because your whole shift. That's a biological function. Yeah. If your patient hadn't gone in 8 hours, you would be calling the doctor so you can cath them and right. But you haven't the whole shift. Yeah. And been drinking coffee all night.
Doing all kinds of things. And since you left home until you got back home. Yeah.
So it's a mindset. It's a mindset of it's okay to take care of me.
Yeah. And it really is. It really is. And it's glad that you mentioned the bladder, because I've always said that if I ever had an insurance company, I'd only insure 2 things, and it would be nurses' bladder and their feet.
Absolutely. And maybe bats. And maybe they're bats.
And
Yeah.
maybe they're bats, yeah. But, oh my goodness gracious. Latora, I don't know how to thank you for spending time with me today. It really has
Oh,
been a joy to talk to you, really. And so many things that you have done, I'm so proud to be able to talk to you, really.
I am so proud that you asked me to speak with you and that I'm able to meet you in person. We've been,
Yeah.
you virtually know people, but you don't get to see them.
Yeah, yeah.
So this is wonderful for me. I'm so very, very pleased and very honored.
Thank you so much. And so wishing you so much success with Costa Rica, really. You have
Thank
to let me know
you.
how it goes.
Yes, we are definitely, my partner and I are in prayer. Hopefully that doesn't fit anybody, but we're in prayer for our perfect 10 because we're only taking 10 ladies so that it can be a very intimate experience.
Yeah,
And so
yeah,
we are praying for the perfect 10. So it's a mix of everybody. So you have a peaceful, you can be in the most
yeah,
beautiful, serene place, but if everybody like this, it's
yeah,
not. So
yeah.
we're praying for that perfect 10 to come together in sisterhood and let us love on them and them love on each other and learn how to
Yes,
take care of themselves. So
yes, yes, yes. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you so much, Latora.
thank you.